The palace kitchens were hot and smelled like burnt metal. Scrubbed the large cooking pots with a rough cloth, his hands red and sore from the work. He had been doing this for 8 months now, ever since the Empire captured him during the war. Every day was the same. Wake up in the cold prison cell, walk to the kitchens, work until his back hurt, then return to sleep on the hard floor. Was 34 years old. Before the war, he had been a combat medic for the human forces. He knew how to treat wounds, set broken bones, and save lives. But here, in this alien palace, he was just another prisoner. They didn't care about his skills. They only saw him as a human, and humans were the enemy. The kitchen supervisor, a tall with blue-gray skin and 4 arms, pointed at, "You, come here." The alien's voice was rough, like rocks grinding together. Put down the pot and walked over. He kept his eyes down. Looking directly at the was considered rude, and rude prisoners got punished. "Commander wants to see you," the supervisor said. "Now." Stomach tightened. Commander was the Queen's military advisor. Prisoners only met him when something bad was about to happen, had done something wrong, had they decided to execute him. 2 guards grabbed his arms and led him through the palace corridors. The walls were made of smooth black stone that reflected light in strange ways, had never been in this part of the palace before. The air smelled different here, cleaner, like flowers he didn't recognize. They stopped outside a large door. One guard pushed it open and shoved inside. Commander stood in the center of the room. He was massive, even for a with thick armor covering his chest and shoulders. His eyes were deep red, and they studied like he was an insect. "You are," said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, Commander," replied quietly. "You were a medic in the human military." "Yes, Commander." Walked around slowly. "The young prince has been injured. Our doctors cannot help him. He refuses their treatment. He screams when they touch him. The Queen has decided to try something different." Looked up surprised. "The prince?" "Prince, he is 7 years old. 3 months ago there was a shuttle accident. His father, the king, died. The prince survived, but he was badly hurt. His wounds are infected. He won't let anyone near him." Stopped in front of. "You will treat him." I'll try my best," said. "You will do more than try," said coldly. "If the prince dies, you die. If he suffers because of you, you will wish for death. Do you understand?" Nodded. His mouth was dry. They led him to another room. This one was smaller, darker. Medical equipment that didn't recognize lined the walls. In the corner, on a bed too large for him, lay a small figure. Prince was tiny compared to adult. His skin was pale gray, almost white, and covered in bandages. Some of the bandages were stained with dark blue blood. The prince's eyes were closed but could tell he wasn't sleeping. His small body was tense, ready to fight or run. "Leave us," said to the guards. Stepped forward. "That is not." "If you want me to help him, leave us," said firmly. "He's terrified. He can smell your fear and anger. It makes him worse." Stared at for a long moment. Then he nodded and left with the guards. The door closed with a heavy sound. Stood still for a minute, letting the prince get used to his presence. Then he pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. Not too close, just close enough. "Hello," said softly. "My name is. I'm not going to hurt you." The prince's eyes opened. They were bright yellow, like small suns. They were also full of pain and fear. "I know you're scared," continued. "I know you hurt. I want to help, but only if you let me. I won't force you. I won't grab you. I'll just sit here until you're ready." The prince said nothing. He just stared at with those yellow eyes. Sat and waited. Minutes passed. Then an hour. His back started to hurt from sitting, but he didn't move. He kept his hands in his lap, visible, non-threatening. Finally the prince spoke. His voice was small and broken. "You're human." "Yes." "Humans killed my father." His chest tightened. "I know, and killed many humans too. War is terrible. It takes people we love." "Did you lose someone?" the prince asked. closed his eyes briefly. He saw his daughter's face, smiling and bright. Yes, I lost my daughter. Her name was Sumi. She was 6 years old. The prince was quiet again. Then he whispered, "Does it stop hurting?" "No," said honestly. "But it gets easier to carry, like a heavy stone. At first it crushes you, but your heart gets stronger. You learn to hold it." Slowly, carefully, the prince moved his small hand toward. It stopped halfway, trembling. Extended his own hand, palm up. "It's okay, I'm here." The prince's hand touched. It was cold and shaking. Held it gently, like holding a small bird. "Will you look at my wounds?" the prince asked. "The doctors, they hurt me. They didn't mean to, but they did." "I'll be as gentle as I can," promised. "If something hurts, you tell me. We'll stop. We'll go slow." The prince nodded. Carefully unwrapped the first bandage. The wound underneath was infected, swollen and leaking. He recognized the problem immediately. The doctors had used the wrong antiseptic. It was causing an allergic reaction. "I need to clean this properly," said. "It will sting a little, but then it will feel better. Can you be brave for me?" The prince nodded again. Worked slowly and carefully. He cleaned each wound with materials he requested from the guards. He talked to the prince the whole time, telling him stories about Earth. He talked about oceans and forests, about cities with tall buildings, about his daughter and the games they used to play. The prince listened, sometimes wincing in pain but never pulling away. When finished with the last bandage, the prince looked exhausted but calmer. "Thank you," the prince whispered. "You didn't hurt me." "I tried not to," said. "You were very brave." "Will you come back tomorrow?" Looked at the small alien child, seeing not an enemy but just a scared little boy who had lost his father. "Yes, I'll come back every day until you're better." The prince's eyes closed, and this time he actually fell asleep. The door opened. Commander and 2 doctors entered. They examined the prince's wounds, checking his work. One doctor's eyes widened. "The infection is already reducing," the doctor said in surprise. "How did you?" "Wrong antiseptic," said simply. "His body was rejecting it." Looked at with something that might have been respect. "You will stay in the palace. You will care for the prince. Guards will watch you at all times." As they led to his new quarters, much nicer than his prison cell, he thought about the small hand in his. It reminded him of Sumi's hand. That memory hurt, but it also gave him purpose. He couldn't save his daughter, but maybe, just maybe, he could save this prince. Behind him, through the door, he heard the prince's small voice one last time before sleep took him completely. "You didn't hurt me." And for the first time in months, felt like his life might have meaning again. 6 months had passed since first treated Prince. The young prince's wounds had healed, leaving thin scars across his pale gray skin. But the deeper wounds, the ones in his heart, took longer to mend. Every morning came to the prince's chambers. They had developed a routine. First, they did physical exercises. The accident had damaged his left leg, making it weak. Worked with him, helping him build strength. Then they would talk or would tell stories, or they would simply sit together in comfortable silence. The palace staff didn't know what to make of this arrangement. Some thought was a kind man helping a traumatized child. Others whispered that he was manipulating the prince, gaining power through the young heir. Commander watched everything with his cold red eyes, but he never interfered. Today, found sitting by the window, looking out at the palace gardens. The prince turned when entered and his face brightened. It was a small smile, but it was there. "Good morning," said. "Good morning, Your Highness," replied. "I told you to call me," the prince said. "When we're alone, you don't have to use titles." Smiled. "All right, how's the leg today?" "Better. I practiced the exercises you showed me." Stood up and walked across the room. He still limped, but it was much better than before. "See." "That's excellent," said proudly. "You're getting stronger every day." They spent the morning doing more exercises. had made special equipment using materials Lee smuggled to him, was another human prisoner, an engineer who worked in the palace maintenance department. He and had become friends, helping each other when they could. After the exercises was tired, they sat on the floor and pulled out something from his pocket. It was a small wooden spaceship, carved from a piece of scrap Wood had found for him. Had spent weeks carving it during his few free hours. "What's that?" asked, his eyes wide. "It's for you," said, handing it to him. "It's a spaceship. Human children play with toys like this. I used to make them for my daughter." Held the wooden ship carefully like it was made of glass. His fingers traced the carved details. "You made this for me." "Yes." "But why? I'm your human. We were enemies." Looked at the young prince. "Were, past tense. Right now you're a child who needs someone to care about him, and I'm someone who knows how to care." Hugged the wooden ship to his chest. "Thank you," he whispered. Then, after a moment, "Tell me about Sumi." His throat tightened. He didn't talk about Sumi often. It hurt too much. But asked so rarely, and when he did, it was with such genuine care. "She loved to laugh," began. "Everything made her laugh. She would laugh at silly jokes, at funny faces, at the way birds hopped around. She was like sunshine." "What happened to her?" asked quietly. "There was a bombing in our city. She was at school." Stopped. He couldn't say more. Moved closer and put his small hand on his arm. "I'm sorry." They sat in silence for a while, then spoke again. "My father used to tell me stories about brave warriors and wise leaders, but he never had time to play with me. He was always busy with important things." The prince looked at his wooden ship. "You make time, even though you're a prisoner, even though you have no reason to care about me. You still make time." "You're worth making time for," said. The door opened suddenly. Commander entered, his expression dark. "The Queen wants to see you, human." Stood up now. "Now." Grabs hand. "What does Mother want?" "I don't know, Your Highness," said. "But when the Queen summons someone, they go." Squeezed hand gently. "It's all right, I'll be back soon." The throne room was enormous. The ceiling stretched so high that couldn't see the top. Queen sat on a throne made of black stone and silver metal. She was tall and imposing, with deep blue skin and eyes like ice. Her crown seemed to be made of living light, shifting and glowing. Bowed low. He had never met the Queen before. "Stand," she commanded. Stood. Queen studied him for a long moment. "You are the human who treats my son." "Yes, Your Majesty." "I have been observing you. For 6 months I have watched through the security monitors. I have seen how you care for, how you make him smile, how you help him heal." Said nothing. He didn't know if this was good or bad. "My son was dying," the Queen continued. "Not from his wounds, but from grief. He wouldn't eat, he wouldn't speak. He wanted to follow his father into death, but then you came, and now he lives again." She paused. "Why?" "Your Majesty." "Why do you care for him? He is the son of your enemy. His people killed your child. You should hate him, you should want him to suffer. Yet you carve him toys, you tell him stories, you treat him with tenderness. Why?" Thought carefully about his answer. "Because he's a child, Your Majesty, and children are innocent. They don't start wars. They don't choose to hate. They only know what adults teach them. If we want the future to be different, we have to teach them something better than hatred." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "Beautiful words, but I wonder if you have other motives. Power, perhaps, influence over my heir." "I want nothing from you," said firmly. "I didn't ask for this assignment. I was ordered to help him, and I did. If you want to send me back to the kitchens or to prison, I won't fight you. But I would ask one thing." "What?" "Find someone who will truly care for, not just treat his body but his heart. He needs that." Queen stood and walked down the steps from her throne. She stopped in front of, towering over him. "You dare to tell me what my son needs?" "With respect, Your Majesty, you asked me a question. I answered honestly." For a moment thought she might strike him, but then something changed in her expression. It softened just slightly. "You remind me of someone," she said quietly. "My mate's father. He spoke plainly too. He never feared to tell me the truth, even when the truth was hard to hear." She turned away. "You may continue caring for my son, but know this, human, I will be watching. If I see any sign that you are using him, manipulating him, turning him against his own people, I will end you. Slowly." "Understood, Your Majesty." "You may go." Bowed and left. His hands were shaking. That evening, met with Park in the servants' corridor, was a woman in her 40s who had been captured during the same battle as. She worked in the palace laundry and was one of the few humans who could move around relatively freely. "You met the Queen?" asked, her voice low. "What did she say?" "She threatened to kill me if I manipulate the prince." Shook her head. "You need to be careful. You're getting too close to that child. He's not your son. He's an alien prince. This won't end well." "I know he's not Sumi," said quietly. "But when I'm with him, I feel like I have purpose again. Like maybe I can do some good in this terrible situation." "And when they tear you away from him, what then? It will break you both." Had no answer for that. Later that night, unable to sleep, stood in the small courtyard outside his quarters. The stars here looked different than Earth's stars. Everything was different. He turned, stood in the doorway, wearing his sleeping clothes and holding the wooden spaceship. "You should be in bed." "I couldn't sleep. I was worried. Mother called you, I thought." The prince's voice shook. "I thought she might send you away." Knelt down. "I'm still here." "Promise you won't leave," said. "Promise you'll stay." Wanted to promise. He wanted to tell the child that everything would be all right, but he had learned that some promises couldn't be kept. "I promise I'll stay as long as I can," he said instead. "And while I'm here, I'll do everything I can to help you become strong and brave." Hugged him then, his small arms wrapping around his neck. "You make me feel safe," the prince whispered. Held him gently, this alien child who somehow filled a space in his broken heart. "You make me feel like I matter again," he whispered back. 1 year had passed since first met Prince. The prince was 8 years old now, and the changes in him were remarkable. He walked without a limp. He spoke with confidence, at least when was nearby. He even smiled and laughed, sounds that had been absent from the palace for so long. The palace staff had divided opinions about. Some respected him for saving the prince. Others feared his influence, but no one could deny that Prince was thriving. Today was a beautiful day. The palace gardens were in full bloom, with flowers that glowed softly in the afternoon light, and walked together along the stone paths. 2 guards followed at a distance, always watching but no longer treating like a dangerous criminal. "Tell me about Earth Oceans again," said, holding his hand as they walked. "The part about the waves." Smiled. "The waves come in and out, pushed by the moon's gravity. They crash against the shore with this rushing sound. When I was young, I used to stand in the water and let the waves push against my legs. It felt like the ocean was playing with me." "I want to see an ocean someday," said dreamily. "Maybe you will, when you're older, when there's peace between our peoples." "Do you think there will ever be peace?" "I hope so. Wars can't last forever." They turned a corner in the garden path. His instincts, trained from years as a combat medic, suddenly screamed danger. He saw movement in the bushes ahead, a glint of metal, a shadow that shouldn't be there. "Get down!" shouted, pushing to the ground and covering him with his body. An energy blade sliced through the air where his head had been a second before. The blade changed direction, coming back toward them, rolled, keeping underneath him. The blade struck his shoulder, cutting deep. Pain exploded through his body, but he didn't let go of the prince. The guards were running now, weapons drawn. More guards poured out from other paths. There was shouting, the sound of energy weapons firing, kept his body over, protecting him. "Stay down," gasped. Blood was flowing from his shoulder, warm and wet. "You're hurt," cried. "I'm fine, stay down." The attack was over in seconds. The assassin, dressed in dark clothes with a house symbol didn't recognize, was captured. 3 guards dragged him away. The assassin was screaming something about the rightful heir and house. Commander arrived, his face dark with fury. "Secure the prince, get the medics." Tried to stand but stumbled. The world was spinning. He had lost a lot of blood. "Don't move, human," one of the guards said, but his voice was concerned, not hostile. Said weakly, "Is he safe?" "I'm here," crawled over to, his yellow eyes wide with fear. You're bleeding so much." "I'm all right," lied, "just a scratch." The medics arrived and immediately began treating his wound. They moved him to a medical chamber in the palace, refused to leave his side, holding onto his hand even as the doctors worked. Queen appeared in the doorway. She looked at the scene, her son clinging to the wounded human, the blood on the floor, the emergency medical equipment. "Out," she commanded the doctors. "Everyone out except Commander." The room cleared quickly. Only the Queen and the barely conscious remained. "You took a blade meant for my son," the Queen said, her voice strange. Tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. "Why?" the Queen demanded. "You are a prisoner. You could have let the blade strike. You could have saved yourself. Why did you shield him?" Finally managed to speak, his voice barely a whisper. "Because he's a child. Children deserve to live." The Queen stared at him. "You would die for him." "Yes. Even though his people killed your daughter." "Yes," coughed, "because that's what you do. When you love someone, you protect them." Sobbed, "Don't die, please don't die." "Not planning to," said, trying to smile for the prince's sake. The Queen was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke too. "Double the guards around my son. Find everyone connected to house in this palace and question them. And bring the best doctors, human or I don't care. This man will not die." Over the next 3 days, drifted in and out of consciousness. The wound had been deep, damaging muscles and tendons. The doctors said he would recover, but it would take time. When he was finally awake and aware, the first thing he saw was the prince was asleep in a chair next to the bed, his small hand holdings. "He hasn't left," a voice said. Turned his head carefully. Queen sat in the corner of the room, watching. "Your Majesty," said, trying to sit up. "Don't move, your wound will reopen." She stood and walked closer. "My son has been here for 3 days. He refused to leave. He wouldn't eat unless someone brought food to this room. He wouldn't sleep unless he could hold your hand." Looked at its peaceful sleeping face. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I didn't mean for him to become so attached." "Stop apologizing," the Queen said sharply. Then more softly, "I came here to understand something. I have been alive for 70 years. I have seen many things, but I cannot understand this. You are human. We are at war with your people. Yet you risked your life for my son without hesitation. Explain this to me." Was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "Your Majesty, when my daughter died, I thought my life was over. I had nothing left. I was captured, made a prisoner, forced to scrub pots in your kitchens. I wanted to die. And then they brought me to." He looked at the sleeping prince. "He was broken like me, hurt like me, grieving like me. And when I helped him heal, I started to heal too. He gave me a reason to wake up every morning. He reminded me that even in the darkest places, there can be light." "You love him," the Queen said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," admitted. "I know I shouldn't. I know he's not my son. I know this is temporary and dangerous and foolish. But yes, I love him." The Queen's expression was unreadable. "I spent the last 3 days thinking about what I should do with you. Some advisors say you're too dangerous, that you have too much influence over my son. They say I should send you away, maybe execute you." His heart sank. "But then I watched my son these 3 days," the Queen continued. "I watched him refuse food because he was too worried about you. I watched him cry in his sleep, calling for you. I watched him hold your hand like you were the only thing keeping him alive." She paused. "When his father died, shut down completely. He wouldn't let me comfort him. He pushed everyone away. But you, a human, an enemy, you reached him when no one else could. She walked to the window and looked out. I was wrong about you. You are not manipulating my son. You genuinely care for him, and he genuinely loves you. I cannot take that away from him, no matter what my advisors say. Felt tears in his eyes. Thank you, Your Majesty. Don't thank me yet, she said, turning back. This makes you valuable. It also makes you a target. House wants my son dead so they can claim the throne. They will try again, and next time they might target you to hurt him. I understand. Do you? The Queen's eyes were intense. You are no longer just a prisoner. You have become part of this family, whether you intended to or not. That means you are now in danger. That means people will try to use you. That means your life is no longer your own. It stopped being my own the day I met, said quietly. Stirred in his chair, his eyes opened slowly, then went wide when he saw was awake. You're awake. Hey there, said gently. I heard you've been keeping watch over me. I was so scared, said, fresh tears streaming down his face. When the blade hit you, there was so much blood. I thought you were going to die like Father did. I'm tougher than I look, said, managing a smile despite the pain. Climbed onto the bed carefully, avoiding his injured shoulder, and hugged him. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for not dying. Held the prince with his good arm. I'll always protect you. The Queen watched this scene silently. Then she spoke, her voice soft. I need to speak with alone for a moment. Nodded and reluctantly left the room. When they were alone, the Queen said, You asked me once to help bring our peoples together, to end the war. I am going to try. Peace negotiations are beginning next month. I want you there. Me, but I'm just. You are the man who saved my son's life. You are the human who showed me that not all humans are monsters. Your presence will matter. She moved toward the door, then stopped. My son called your name in his sleep, not his father's name, not mine, yours. Do you understand what that means? Did understand, and it filled him with both joy and fear. 3 months had passed since the assassination attempt. Shoulder had healed, though it still ached when the weather changed. More importantly, the peace negotiations between the Empire and the human coalition were finally beginning. Representatives from both sides, along with delegates from neutral alien species, were gathering at the palace. Today was the most important day. Prince would be formally presented to the Grand Council and receive his title as Crown Prince. It was a ceremony that happened only once in a royal's life. Hundreds of nobles, military commanders, and diplomats would attend. Stood in his quarters, adjusting the formal clothes they had given him. They weren't prisoner clothes anymore, but they also weren't noble attire. He was somewhere in between, neither prisoner nor freeman, neither servant nor family. He was simply the human who cared for the prince. There was a knock on his door. Lee entered, looking nervous in his own formal clothes. Big day, said. Very big, agreed. Are you worried? Terrified, admitted. Has been practicing his ceremonial walk for weeks, but he's still nervous. Large crowds make him anxious. He'll have you there, said. That will help. Park appeared in the doorway. She looked elegant in her formal dress, her gray hair pulled back. They're calling for everyone to gather. You'll be seated with the other palace staff, but you'll be close to the front. The grand hall was enormous. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into shadows. Hundreds of seats filled the space, arranged in a circle around a central platform where the throne sat. Had never seen so many in one place. There were also other alien species he didn't recognize, with strange skin colors and body shapes. Found his seat. He was indeed close to the front, close enough to see the throne clearly. Around him, palace staff whispered nervously. Across the hall, he could see Park and Lee with other human prisoners. They gave him small nods of encouragement. Trumpets sounded. Everyone stood as Queen entered. She wore a magnificent gown that seemed to be made of liquid silver and carried herself with absolute authority. She took her place on the throne. More trumpets. The side door opened and Prince entered. The prince looked so small in his formal robes. The clothes were beautiful deep blue with silver embroidery, but they seemed to swallow his thin frame. He walked slowly, carefully, as he had been taught. His face was pale and could see the tension in his small shoulders. Was supposed to walk alone from the entrance to the throne, where his mother would place the crown of the heir upon his head. It was tradition. It showed strength and independence. But halfway across the hall stopped. The silence was immediate and crushing. Hundreds of eyes focused on the young prince. Saw's hands start to shake. The prince was looking around at all the faces, all the strangers, and the old trauma was resurfacing. He was remembering the shuttle accident, the crowds of people trying to help, his father's death. His eyes searched the crowd desperately, then they found. Time seemed to slow down. Saw what was about to happen and knew he should stop it, but he also knew he couldn't, not without making things worse. Prince turned away from the throne. He walked towards section instead. The whispers started immediately, shocked and scandalized. This was not protocol. This was not tradition. This was unthinkable. Commander stood, his hand moving toward his weapon. Other guards tensed. Queen gripped the arms of her throne, her face unreadable. Reached seat and stopped. The entire grand hall fell silent. You could have heard a single breath in that massive space. And then Prince spoke, his young voice clear and carrying in the silence. "Dad, I'm scared." The palace fell completely silent. His heart stopped. Every eye in the hall turned to him. He saw Commander's shock. He saw Queen's frozen expression. He saw the alien ambassadors leaning forward with interest. He saw House representatives standing with anger on their faces. Park's face showed pure terror. Lee had gone pale. Knew this moment would define everything. He could deny it, could tell he was mistaken, could maintain the proper distance. That would be safe. That would be smart. But was looking at him with those yellow eyes full of fear and trust, and couldn't lie to him. He had never lied to this child, and he wouldn't start now. Stood slowly. He walked to and knelt down so they were eye to eye. The guards tensed, but no one moved to stop him. "I know you're scared," said softly, though in the silence everyone could hear him. "Do you remember what I taught you?" Nodded, tears beginning to form in his eyes. "What makes someone brave?" asked. "Being scared but doing it anyway," whispered. "That's right, and you know what? Everyone in this hall is watching you right now. They're all waiting to see what you'll do. This is your moment to show them the prince you've become. Can you do that?" Was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Will you be here? Will you watch me?" "I'll be right here. I'm not going anywhere, I promise." Wiped his eyes. He straightened his small shoulders. "Okay, I can do it." "I know you can. Now go show them." Took a deep breath, turned, and walked back toward the throne. His steps were steady now, his head held high. Every eye followed him. When he reached the throne and knelt before his mother, there was no shake in his hands. Queen stood. She looked down at her son, then across the hall at. Her expression was complex, filled with emotions couldn't read. Then she took the crown of the heir, a circlet of silver and blue stones, and placed it on his head. "Rise, Prince, crown Prince of the Empire, heir to the eternal throne," she said formally. Stood, the hall erupted in traditional approval sounds, a kind of deep humming that made the air vibrate. But underneath that could hear the whispers starting. The scandal, the shock, the human prisoner, the prince calling him father. The ceremony continued with speeches and formal declarations. Sat back down, feeling like his legs might give out. He had just destroyed any chance of maintaining distance, of staying safe, of being invisible. After the ceremony, as people filed out for the reception, Commander appeared at his side. "Come with me," said. His voice was hard. Followed him to a small antechamber, closed the door and turned to face him. "Do you understand what you've done?" demanded. The entire empire just watched the crown prince call a human prisoner his father. Do you understand the chaos this will cause? I didn't ask him to, said quietly. No, but you allowed it. You could have corrected him. You could have stopped. House is already calling for your execution. They're saying you've bewitched the prince, turned him against his own people. They're saying this is human manipulation at its worst. And what do you say? Asked. Was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something never expected. I say the prince has never been stronger. I say he just walked through his greatest fear because you gave him courage. I say perhaps that is worth the scandal. Before could respond, the door opened. Queen entered, her face like stone, bowed and left quickly. Bowed low, Your Majesty, I. Be quiet, she commanded. She walked to the window and looked out at the palace grounds. My son called you father in front of the entire Grand Council, in front of allied species, in front of our enemies, in front of everyone. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. Are you? She turned to face him. Are you truly sorry? Because I don't think you are. I think if given the choice again, you would do exactly the same thing. Met her eyes. Yes, Your Majesty, I would. Why? Because he needed me in that moment, and I will always be there when he needs me. The Queen's expression softened slightly. You realize this complicates everything. The peace negotiations, the political situation, your own safety. House will use this. They'll say I've allowed a human to corrupt my son. They'll say I'm weak. I know. And yet you don't regret it. No, Your Majesty, I don't. She studied him for a long time. Then she said, tomorrow morning there will be a tribunal. You will be formally charged with inappropriate conduct toward the crown prince. The evidence will be the incident today. You could be executed. His blood ran cold. I understand. Do you have anything to say in your defense? Thought about it. Then he said simply, I love your son, Your Majesty. That's the only defense I have. And if loving him is a crime, then I'm guilty. The Queen's eyes glistened. My mate said something similar once when the council questioned his judgment. He said love was its own justification. She moved toward the door, then paused. Sleep well tonight. Tomorrow will decide your fate. After she left, sat alone in the antechamber. His hands were shaking. He had known this moment might come, but he hadn't expected it so soon. The door opened again. Ran in, still wearing his crown. They told me I couldn't see you, said, breathing hard. But I snuck away. They're saying terrible things. They're saying they're going to hurt you because of what I did. This is my fault. No, said firmly, pulling into a hug. This is not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. But I called you, stopped. I called you Dad in front of everyone. I wasn't supposed to do that, was I? Held him, you called me what you feel, and that's never wrong. The tribunal chamber was smaller than the grand hall, but no less intimidating. Stone walls rose up on all sides, carved with ancient symbols. A semicircle of high seats faced a single platform where stood, hands bound in ceremonial chains. The judges were 7 high nobles, including representatives from House. Queen sat above them all in an elevated throne, but by law she could not interfere with the tribunal's judgment. She could only watch. Commander read the charges. Human prisoner, you are accused of corrupting the crown prince through inappropriate attachment. You are accused of manipulation and attempting to gain power through the royal heir. You are accused of causing the prince to reject his own people in favor of his enemies. How do you answer these charges? Stood straight, not guilty, Commander. One of the judges, a female with dark red skin, spoke. You deny that the prince called you father. No, I don't deny that. Then you admit to corrupting him, another judge said. This one was from House, and his voice dripped with satisfaction. I admit to caring for him, said. I admit to teaching him, helping him heal and protecting him. If that's corruption, then yes, I'm guilty. You manipulated a traumatized child, the judge accused. You used his grief and pain to turn him against his own kind. You, a human, made him dependent on you. You replaced his father in his heart." "I didn't replace anyone," said firmly. "Prince loved his father, he still does. I see him look at his father's portrait when he thinks no one is watching. I hear him talk about the stories his father told him. I never tried to erase that." "Then why does he call you father?" the red-skinned judge asked. Took a breath. "Because I was there. When he was hurting and alone and scared, I was there. When he needed someone to hold his hand through the pain, I was there. When he learned to walk again, to smile again, to hope again, I was there. Not because I wanted power, not because I had some plan, but because he needed someone and I needed someone. We healed each other." "Beautiful words," the judge sneered. "But words are cheap. The fact remains that you have dangerous influence over our future ruler. What happens when you tell him to favor humans over? What happens when you poison him against his own people?" "I would never do that," said. "Wouldn't you? You're human. We killed your people. We killed your daughter. You have every reason to seek revenge." His voice went cold. "Yes, you killed my daughter, and for a long time I hated every I saw, but then I met, and he was just a scared little boy who had lost his father. He wasn't my enemy. He was just a child who needed help. And I realized that if I taught him to hate, if I passed my pain on to him, then Sumi's death would mean nothing. The cycle of hate would just continue." The chamber was silent. "I want my daughter's death to mean something," continued, his voice breaking slightly. "I want it to be the end of hatred, not the beginning of more. So yes, I care for Prince. Yes, I love him like a son. But I'm teaching him compassion, not revenge. I'm teaching him to see humans as people, not enemies. Is that really corruption?" "It is treason against your own kind," someone said. "No," said, "it's hope for both our kinds." Another judge spoke, an older with gray skin. "We have testimony from palace staff, from guards, from doctors. We have security recordings of your interactions with the prince. We have reviewed everything." He paused. "And we find no evidence of manipulation or malice. We see only genuine care. However, that does not solve our problem. The prince is too attached to you. This is politically dangerous." "I understand," said. "Then you understand why we must recommend your removal from the prince's life. You will be sent to a different facility. The prince will be assigned new caregivers. This attachment must be broken." Felt his heart sink. He had expected execution. Somehow this felt worse. For how long? "Permanently." "You're going to take me away from him, after everything." His voice rose. "He's 9 years old, he's finally healing, you'll destroy him." "We have no choice," the older judge said, but he sounded regretful. "The crown prince cannot be dependent on a human. It sets a dangerous precedent." "You're wrong," a young voice said. Everyone turned. Prince stood at the chamber entrance. He was not supposed to be there. Guards moved to stop him, but Commander held up a hand. "Your Highness, you should not be here," the red-skinned judge said. "I demand to speak," said. His voice was shaking but determined. "It's about me. I should be allowed to speak." The judges looked at Queen. She nodded slowly. Walked to the center of the chamber. He looked so small, but he stood tall. "You're all talking about me like I'm a thing that can be controlled, like I don't have my own thoughts or feelings, but I do." "Your Highness, you're young," the judge said. "You don't understand." "I understand that my father died," interrupted. "I understand that I was hurt and scared and wanted to die too. I understand that all of you, all the doctors and advisors and nobles, you all tried to help me, but you couldn't, because you didn't see me. You saw the prince. You saw the heir. You saw the political problem." He turned to look at, but saw me, just me, a scared boy who needed someone to care. He didn't care that I was a prince. He didn't care about politics or power. He just cared about me. Turned back to the judges. "You say he manipulated me. You say he corrupted me. But he's the one who taught me to be brave. He's the one who taught me that being scared is okay. He's the one who showed me that caring about people, even people who are different from you, is not weakness. It's strength. Your Highness, the older judge said gently, we understand your feelings, but— No, you don't, said. His eyes filled with tears, but his voice stayed strong. If you did, you wouldn't be trying to take away the person who saved my life. Didn't make me call him Dad. I chose that word. I chose it because that's what he is to me. Not my father who died. I'll always love my father, but is the one who taught me to live again. He looked directly at the judge. You say it's dangerous that I care about a human, but I think the dangerous thing is teaching me to hate people just because they're different. My father told me once that a good ruler cares about all people, not just his own. Has shown me what that means. If you kill him or send him away, you're not protecting me. You're teaching me that love is something to be ashamed of. The chamber was absolutely silent. I am the crown prince, said. Someday I will rule this empire. And when I do, I want to rule with the wisdom my father had and the compassion taught me. If you take him away, you take away the best part of who I'm becoming. He walked to where stood and took his chained hands. Please, don't take him away from me. Queen stood, every eye turned to her. She descended from her throne and walked to her son. For a moment, no one knew what she would do. Then she knelt down in front of and touched his face gently. You have grown so much, she said softly. You speak with your father's wisdom. You carry his heart. She looked up at, and you have found a teacher who has shown you how to use that heart. She stood and addressed the tribunal. I have heard enough. This human saved my son's life multiple times. He asked for nothing in return. He could have used his position to demand favors, freedom, power. He did not. He simply cared for a child who needed caring. The judge stood. Your Majesty, the law states you cannot interfere. The law states I cannot overturn the tribunal's judgment, the Queen corrected, but I can offer new evidence. She gestured, and guards brought forward Lee and Park. These humans have worked in the palace for over a year. They know, let them testify. Park spoke first. Is the most honest person I know. He never wanted power. He never wanted anything except to help that boy heal. I warned him that he was getting too attached. I told him it would end badly, but he didn't care about protecting himself. He only cared about protecting Prince. Lee nodded. He used to have nightmares about his daughter. I heard him crying at night, but after he started caring for the prince, the nightmares stopped. Those two healed each other. That's not manipulation. That's just love. Commander stepped forward. I have watched this human for nearly 2 years. I suspected him of deception. I looked for signs of manipulation. I found none. Instead, I found a man of honor who saved my prince's life at risk of his own. I recommend his release and formal appointment as guardian to the crown prince. The judges looked at each other. Whispered conversations happened. Finally, the older gray judge spoke. This is unprecedented. A human, an enemy combatant, given a formal position in the royal household. But these are unprecedented times. Peace negotiations are happening. Perhaps, he paused, perhaps this is exactly the symbol both our peoples need. We find you not guilty of all charges. Furthermore, we recommend your appointment as royal guardian to Crown Prince with full privileges and protections of that office. The judge stood in fury. This is outrageous. You're giving an enemy power over our heir. We're giving a caretaker recognition for his service, the gray judge corrected. If House has objections, they may file formal complaint with the Queen. Oh, we will, the judge snarled, and we will remember this. He stormed out. The chains were removed from his hands, immediately hugged him and held him tight. However, the gray judge continued, there are conditions. All human prisoners currently serving will be reviewed for possible release or reduced sentences. Fair treatment protocols will be established and will serve as a liaison to the human coalition in peace negotiations. Looked up shocked me. You represent the best of what cooperation between our peoples could be, the Queen said. Your presence will matter. Over the following months, changes rippled through the empire. Park was released and given a position in the palace administration. Lee was freed and hired as an engineer. Other human prisoners had their cases reviewed. Many were released. The peace negotiations were difficult. Both sides had grievances, pain, loss. But's presence and the story of how he saved Prince became a powerful symbol. If these two could form a family across enemy lines, perhaps their peoples could find peace. 5 years passed. Prince, now 14, stood before a joint assembly of Inhumans. He had grown tall, confident, but his yellow eyes still held warmth when he looked at. "My father died in war," said to the assembled crowd. "But from that tragedy, I gained a teacher who showed me that our peoples don't have to be enemies, taught me that love is stronger than hate, that compassion is more powerful than vengeance, that family is not about biology but about choice." The crowd, a mix of humans and other alien species, listened intently. "Today we sign a lasting peace treaty," continued, "and I hope that this peace will be remembered not just as an end to war but as a beginning of understanding, of cooperation, of seeing each other not as enemies but as people." After the ceremony and visited a memorial for war victims, holographic images of the dead floated in the air, found Sumi's image and stood before it, placed flowers at the base. "I wish I could have met her," said quietly. "She would have loved you," said. "You remind me of her sometimes, the way you laugh, the way you're curious about everything." "Do you think she would be proud of what we've done?" Looked at the image of his daughter, forever 6 years old, forever smiling. "Yes, I think she would be." They walked back through the palace gardens where, years ago, had taken a blade meant for. The scars on both of them had faded but not disappeared. Said, using the name he still preferred in private, "Thank you for everything, for saving me, for staying, for teaching me." "Thank you for giving me a reason to keep living," replied. They reached the palace entrance. Queen stood waiting. She smiled, something she rarely did in public. "My son, my advisor, come. There is much work to be done." Took's hand, just like he had done as a scared 7-year-old. But now his grip was strong, confident. "Let's go, Dad," he said. And this time no one fell silent. This time it was simply accepted, because some bonds transcend politics, species, and war. Some bonds are simply family.